everybody. We've been reading a book called Flat Stanley. And yesterday when we got to our chapter about Flat Stanley, I don't know if you remember or not, but he was trying to help catch the museum thieves. And this was his neighbor, Mr. Dart, and he lived where the lamb chops lived. And so he wanted to use Flat Stanley in the museum and at nighttime. So Stanley had to take a nap so he could go help him. And Stanley was going to be part of a picture. Do you remember that? And he would be able to see what was happening across the way in the main hall where there was a big expensive painting. And yesterday, Stanley was getting tired, if you remember that. He had to stand in a picture frame that was balancing on little spikes. And he just thought, well, maybe the thieves wouldn't come at all. And where we start off today, suddenly Stanley heard a noise that went, creak. The creaking sound came from right out in the middle of the main hall. And even as he heard it, Stanley saw in the same place a tiny yellow glow of light. The creaking came again and the glow got bigger. A trap door had opened in the floor and two men came up it into the hall. Stanley understood everything all at once. These must be the sneak thieves. They had a secret trap door and they could enter into the museum from outside. That was why they had never been caught. And now tonight they were back to steal the most expensive painting in the world. He held very still in his picture frame and listened to the sneak thieves. "This is it, Max," said the first one. "This is where we art robbers pull a sensational job whilst the civilized community sleeps." "Right, Luther," said the other man. "In all this great city there is no one to suspect us." "Ha ha," thought Stanley Lambchop. "That's what you think." And can you see that light coming up through the trap door? And they're going to shine it on the painting that they want to steal. The sneak thieves put down their lantern and took the world's most expensive painting right off the wall. "What would we do to anyone who tried to capture us, Max?" the first man asked. "Oh, we would kill him. What else?" his friend replied. Oh, that was enough to frighten Stanley. And he just was feeling so frightened. Oh, look at those two guys. There they are, the sneak thieves. Oh. Luther came over and stared at Stanley. "This sheep girl," Luther said. "I thought sheep girls were supposed to smile, Max. This one looks scared." Just in time, Stanley managed to get a faraway look in his eyes again and to smile, sort of. "You're crazy, Luther," Max said. "She's smiling, and what a pretty little thing she is, too." That made Stanley furious. He waited until the sneak thieves had turned back to the world's most expensive painting, and he shouted in his loudest, most terrifying voice, "Police! Police! Mr. Dart! The sneak thieves are here!" Oh, look at that. Stanley's so brave. The sneak thieves looked at each other. "Max," said the first one, very quietly, "I think I heard the sheep girl yell." "I think I did too," said Max in a quivery voice. "Oh boy, yelling pictures. We both need a rest." "You'll get a rest all right," shouted Mr. Dart, rushing in with the chief of police and lots of guards and policemen behind him. "You'll get arrested, that's what." Ha ha ha. The sneak thieves were too mixed up by Mr. Dart's joke and too frightened by the policemen to put up a fight. Before they knew it, they had been handcuffed and led away to jail. The next morning in the office of the chief of police, Stanley Lambchop got a medal. And the day after that, his picture was in all the newspapers. Do you see what it says there? There's Stanley Lambchop, and he was a hero. It says, "Flat Boy helps capture art thieves." And we're going to end our story with Flat Stanley right there. And I have some friends that have missed you. It's George and Martha. Say hi. Hi, everybody. Have you missed them? Yeah, I haven't been reading their stories for a little bit. So we're going to read a few of their stories tonight, okay? Okay, you sit there and listen while I read it. And this one is called Story Number 1, The Box. Martha noticed a little box on George's kitchen table. "Do not open," said the sign. "Oh, I won't," said Martha. "I'm not the nosy type." But Martha couldn't take her eyes off the little box. She read the sign again. "Do not open." Martha couldn't stand it. "One little peek won't hurt," she said. And she untied the string. Look at that. Martha just couldn't wait. Out jumped George's entire collection of Mexican jumping beans. "Oh, my stars," said Martha. "Oh, dear." It took Martha all afternoon to round up all the Mexican jumping beans. One yellow one gave her quite a chase. Do you see it there? Yep, that was the last one that she was able to get. When George came home, Martha was reading a magazine. "You seem out of breath," said George. "You don't think I opened that little box, do you?" said Martha. "Of course not," said George. "I'm not the nosy type," said Martha. George didn't say a word. He's such a good friend, isn't he? Did you ever have a Mexican jumping bean? I had them when I was little, and they're kind of fun. You don't see them too much anymore. Story number 2, The High Board. Now, when I was a little girl, I went to McKinley Park swimming pool, and they had what they called the low dive and the high dive. And all I ever did was jump off the high dive. I never was able to dive off of it. The high board. "Today," said George, "I will jump from the high board." "Don't do it," cried Martha. "Everyone will be watching," said George. "You'd never catch me up there," said Martha. "That's because you're a scaredy cat," said George. I don't think that was very nice. But when George got up on the high board, he lost his nerve. I can't do it," he said. "And everyone is watching." His knees began to shake. "I'll be right up," said Martha. Oh, look at him. He's just so nervous being on that high board. Whew. Martha climbed up the ladder. "Now what?" said George. "I'll go first," said Martha. And she jumped off. Woo! She was really, really brave. Martha caused quite a splash. Everyone was impressed, and no one noticed how George got down. I just didn't feel like it today," said George. Martha didn't say a word. She's a good friend, isn't she? A very good friend. And this story is called The Trick. Have you ever played a trick on someone? I think I've probably played too many tricks. George was fond of playing tricks on Martha, but that was not Martha's idea of fun. And when she found her house slippers nailed to the floor, she was not amused. Oh, George. Martha gave George the old silent treatment. "Oh, no," said George, "not that." George decided to bake Martha's favorite cake. "This will butter her up," he said. When the cake was done, George put it in a box, and he went to look for pretty ribbon. Well, that was sure nice of George. "I have a surprise for you," said George. "It's another trick," said Martha. "Not this time," said George. "Then you open it," said Martha. "Very well," said George, "I will." Martha bit her nails while George pulled off the ribbon. Oh, she was afraid it was a trick. Out jumped one rubber tarantula, one stuffed snake, 4 plastic spiders, and 2 real frogs. "Egads!" cried George. I've been tricked. And by the way, said Martha, the cake was simply delicious. And we'll stop there. And I'm going to do a couple of our songs with a letter. This is letter P, capital P, lowercase p. And I'm going to sing this song, and we are going to listen. You need to listen for words that start with P. P is for Penelope, Penelope, Penelope. P is for Penelope, a proud and pretty pig. Penelope is pink and plump, pink and plump, pink and plump. Penelope is pink and plump, a truly perfect pig. Look at Penelope there. Did you hear some words that started with P? That's right, Penelope. That's right, she's pretty and proud. Ah, pink and plump, and she's perfect, isn't she? She's perfect. This letter is capital Q, lowercase q. And this is going to be about Quentin's duck. Look at him there. Quentin's duck. Quentin's duck went quack, quack, quack. Quack. Though Quentin tried to teach him more, quack was all he'd say. With a quack, quack there and a quack, quack here. Here quack, there quack, everywhere quack, quack. Quentin tried to teach him more, but quack was all he'd say. There weren't too many Q words in there, were there? Quentin, that was his name. Quentin owned the duck, and the duck said, quack, 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 quack. Can you sing that one with me? Quentin's duck went quack, quack, quack. Quack. Though Quentin tried to teach him more, quack was all he'd say. With a quack, quack here and a quack, quack there. Here a quack, there a quack, everywhere a quack, quack. Quentin tried to teach him more, but quack was all he'd say. Okay, you're so good at hearing letters, words that start with certain letters. I'm so proud of you. And you know what? It's time for bed already. So George and Martha are going to give each other a hug. They're going to give me a big hug. Oh, and they're going to send you a big hug. Ooh, can you feel it? Oh, big hugs from George and Martha. Good night. Good night, everyone. Bye. Oh, bye. Mwah.
Amen.